A local candidate for city council is under fire for allegedly using AI to flaunt phony endorsements and messaging. Does this raise concerns about your ability to trust political messaging in general or be more diligent? Let's get into it. This is Nuance. I'm Mike Scala, joined as always by Jay Carter. I'm an MC and an attorney, and he is an MC and the chair of BLM Tokyo. What's up, Jay? And this is the real Jay, not AI Jay, correct?
No, not AIJ. I've been hesitant of creating an AIJ. So
Okay.
yeah.
AIJ.
Um yeah, no, and it's very possible to do and quite easy to do. So I think
Wait.
yeah,
Let's back up. It's easy to create an AIJ, or
yeah.
okay, not an AI of anyone else, but an AIJ in particular.
Of anybody.
Okay.
And yeah, it's quite easy to do. And for me to create an AIJ, it would be quite easy, especially with that new Sora 2 that came out. Um So yeah, this the technology is amazing, and it's definitely going to or needs to make people less trusting of what they're seeing, and more, to do their research and to look into whatever they're being presented with. Because if not, we're cooked. We're cooked, chat. We're cooked.
Well, I may be cooked because I've been challenged to do this show after having eaten a Guyanese red hot pepper.
So
So
you have wait, okay, you have not done it yet.
no, I have not. I don't even know
So
what it
this will be
tastes
the
like or
first
how hot it
time.
has to be. Oh, just time to back out, you're saying, to come to my senses?
Um, you know what? I'm listen. I'm all right for looking at an accident, you know.
So Nuance is filmed before a live studio audience. I was told that I've had it already, but in sauce, not raw like this, I guess. So that makes me a little more
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Well, you've had it in sauce before, so you might be a little familiar with.
Right. Maybe I
Okay.
have some tolerance built up already.
So we don't know what it's really called. We just know it's a Guyanese hot pepper, but we think it's the wiri riri. I don't know how to
Mhm.
say that. So you just eat it like that?
Yeah, that's the challenge. It looks small too.
Okay.
How bad could this be?
I'm gonna say
Stand it packs
this.
a punch, but it is small.
I'm gonna say this. After you do that, be careful with your fingers around your eyes.
Yes. Yes. I should have worn a glove.
Yeah.
Okay. Here it goes.
Enjoy. See, I'm not a big spicy person. I can see your
It's
face
hot.
changing. I can see your face changing a little bit of some already.
It gave me the hiccups.
There, yeah,
Take a
there
drink of
it
water.
is. Yeah. So, do you think you're ready for hot ones?
That was a hot one.
No, I'm talking about the TV show.
Good show.
Yeah, wouldn't be me,
They
bro.
give you milk on hot ones. I have water right now. I need milk.
The reason why they give you milk is because the dairy tends to break down the oils.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
The after. Okay.
Honey might,
It's getting
honey
worse.
might help. Say what?
One ear is laughing at me. It started off nice and spicy, but tolerable. As time goes on, it's getting worse. That's the problem. It's not getting better. You would think you would be over it, right? After the shock of the initial intake. No, it's lingering and it's compounding.
Water,
And
water could make it worse.
milk. Thank you. I've been milked.
Yeah, water could make it worse. So,
That milk helped a lot immediately.
yeah,
Yeah.
swish it around in your mouth, break up those oils. Yeah. It's funny, like this, when you watch this back, you can see the exact moment when you're when it hits you, because your face definitely, your expression changes a little bit.
I've had that in sauce.
Maybe they've, subdued it a little bit when they put it in a sauce.
Maybe some of the spice, yeah, because it gets distributed amongst the whole dish as opposed to packing
Right.
that
Yeah.
compacted punch. Man, you just asked about hot ones. I used to think I'd be good for that show. After taking out one tiny pepper and like needing a whole glass of milk and more, I don't want to go on hot ones. Right now, I feel like I don't want to have spicy food again for the rest of my life. But I'm sure that'll change soon.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
No,
I wouldn't even attempt.
there's a big one in there too. This is
But is that a
that's
different?
Jamaican.
That's a different pepper.
A
That
different
kind
pepper.
of looks like a habanero, but
The big one is supposedly Jamaican. The small one's a Guyanese.
I don't know what is that. Do you know the name of that Jamaican pepper?
Nope.
Because there's like don't they have the Scotch bonnet?
The Scotch bonnet is made with pepper. It might be a pepper that goes into the Scotch bonnet.
No, but the Scotch bonnet is the pepper.
Is it? I thought the Scotch bonnet was something that you would see in a lot of Jamaican homes where they make it with peppers and they keep adding to it as time goes on and on and on.
No, it's a type of pepper, Scotch bonnet
Okay.
pepper. So that looks like either a Scotch bonnet or a habanero. I would say you should hope that's a habanero.
It's a Scotch bonnet, I've been told.
Oh yeah, I want to see this.
Oh, you want me to eat it? No.
I thought that was
Maybe.
I thought that's what we were here for.
Not doing a whole bag.
No, but you did one of the small ones, now you got to try one of the big ones. That's what I thought we were here for. Yeah,
Maybe
I'm
next week.
entertained. I'm
Maybe
entertained
next
here.
week. I saw an interview with Dennis Farrell, I think his name was, who passed away. He was in the assembly for many years. And I believe he was half Irish, half Jamaican from Harlem. And he described having a Scotch bonnet in his house. He said that many Jamaican families had it on their table. But the
Mm.
way he described it, he said they kept adding to it. They kept like putting, I think they put more peppers in or something. But he said as the years went on, it got spicier and spicier. And it just kind of,
Probably a sauce.
right, it was kind of like marinating in its own sauce. And it kind of,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It was just on their table for years. And I guess once in a while they'll cook with it or use it for different things.
yeah. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
I'm here. I'm here
And
for the spectator entertainment. Let's go. Pop it in.
I'm just getting over that one tiny little pepper. And that pack of
Yeah.
punch, boy, I'm telling you, if that big one is equally as spicy, but just there's more of it, I don't know how you could survive.
Um, yeah. I don't know which is supposed to be hotter.
The entire
Uh,
thing, I mean, I can understand if I take a small piece of it, them being
so,
comparable. But if I'm
so
eating a whole thing,
outside of the hot,
yeah.
the spiciness, what was the flavor like? Give us a little bit of the
Okay.
notes.
So
It's
when I
supposed to be a
first
little
ate it,
tangy.
yeah, when I first ate it, it tasted good. It had a nice, I did taste the kick immediately, but it wasn't overwhelming, right? I tasted like the pepper part of it too. Like, if you have a salad with peppers, aren't hot peppers, right? Like a red pepper or something like that. There's a nice salady pepper flavor, right? That was
Hmm.
part of it, in addition to the spicy kick. So I'm like, wow, this is good. That lasted for the first 2 to 3 seconds. Then the sensation of pepper, the nice, tame, innocent salad pepper went away. The spicy part of it, right? The spice quotient continued to rise. And so
Hmm.
you can graph it out. Maybe the AI companion can prepare a graph for us, right? Time, and then on the other axes, you have the pepper taste, right? The nice pleasant pepper taste and the spiciness. The pepper taste
Hmm.
starts off high and goes down very quickly. The spiciness starts off, I would say, medium and keeps going up and shoots straight to the moon. And so that was the problem. After 10 seconds, right? 15 seconds, my mouth was on
Hmm.
fire. And I forgot that I had anything that was pleasant or resembling a good salad or a meal or a food in my mouth. And all I could think of was needing this spice to go away and probably never eat spicy food again in my life.
Well, I mean, I think since you're here, you might as well pop that Scotch bonnet on in there, because otherwise not do it later.
You want if I do it, I need more milk and more water, maybe 2 glasses of milk.
You're gonna need 2 glasses of milk, but
Two
yeah.
glasses of milk. If someone gets me 2 glasses of milk, I will try. But hold on a second. I'm not gonna eat the entire Scotch bonnet. That's crazy. I'll take a bite of it.
Yeah, you take a bite.
Cut it. I don't have a knife with me or anything.
Yeah, you take a bite of it.
Oh yeah, if I take a bite of it, it might squirt and like get my eye or something, right?
No, not necessarily. I don't think there's juice inside. It's
Oh
just
God.
yeah. And you can close your eyes when you bite it if you're worried about that, but I don't think that's yeah.
How are we going to have this discussion on the dangers of AI? What if AI might see this would have been in good use for AIM? If AIM was here, we wouldn't have had this issue. AIM could have had the pepper and had the AI conversation, and no worries, right?
With Sora 2,
Thank you.
you can uh basically scan your face and likeness and then create AI videos with you. So,
Okay, I've got the plate and the knife, and the milk is coming up. I can't believe I'm having more hot pepper after that.
yeah, man. That's interesting. But
They're taking my picture in here. Okay, here we go.
yeah, I can imagine. That's,
Thank you.
I
Milk.
don't see why people cultivate these things. It's
So this
just not pleasant.
well, you're telling me to eat it just for your own entertainment?
Yeah.
I cut a piece of it.
Yeah, it's just for my own my own entertainment.
This is apparently a piece of the Scotch bonnet. See, I can't even talk anymore. My nose is running already. Like I'm out of it. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Pepper.
Now that should be hotter.
No, it was not hotter.
Really?
I didn't eat the seed. Apparently, I just took a. It just tasted like a regular pepper. That tasted like the kind of pepper you'd find in a salad.
Interesting.
That one was not spicy at all. I think I didn't eat the spicy part of it. Maybe. Let's see. This is a much bigger piece, and it has the
Okay.
seed. So now we'll find out. This is like the real
It's
deal.
a good source of iron. It's a good source of some vitamins, antioxidants. So it's a healthy thing. So you might have gotten a little bit like arrogant. You're like the first one, like, no, this is nothing.
It was
And
not
then you
very
pop.
spicy. The big
Really
one was not very spicy. The other one was crazy spicy. Yeah.
interesting.
The other thing is, I still feel spicy stuff happening in there, but I can't tell what is left over from the first and what's from the second. You know what I mean? Like I
Right, right,
feel
right.
hotness, right? Fire in my mouth, but it's nowhere near what it was from that first pepper.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So that's good though. I
All
mean,
right.
that one, right? That has a level of spice that I enjoy. I can see myself not just popping them like for sport, but maybe making a dish with that in it.
All right, all right.
My tongue
Well,
is starting to hurt now.
yeah, the other one you started hiccups right away.
Yeah. This one's more of a silent killer because now like my tongue is starting to hurt a bit, but when I ate it, I didn't really feel it bad. Weird.
Right.
It could be a combination of them both.
Yeah,
My nose
yeah.
is running. I can blow my nose.
It's getting you. Well, if anything, it's gonna clear you out a little bit.
Make me
You
feel
know,
alive.
there's copper, there's iron, there's capsaicin, which is good. There's some vitamins in there as well. You know, you
It's
just took
oh my god,
a health shot.
it's getting worse. Thank you.
Now, some of the sauces on hot ones have Scotch bonnet in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's getting you. It's a grower, huh? It's a grower, not a shower.
This one took much longer to feel. It felt fine for the first like minute and a half. What's going on?
Right. So that was a red one, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
That was a red one. So I think of the different colors of Scotch bonnet, the red might be the spiciest.
Okay.
So I'm
I'm
looking at
not
a
doing that
chart.
challenge, another coffee, the coffee chip challenge. I'm not doing that. I'm getting lightheaded now.
I think they discontinued that one chip challenge because people were getting hurt.
I can see it.
I'm looking at this chart here of Scotch bonnets. and
Yeah,
they rate the red in between insanely hot and hellishly hot.
it sounds about accurate. But don't forget, I started off with the Guyanese pepper, so I had them both.
Yeah,
I'm a warrior.
you are a warrior. Um,
I'm gonna go down in history, Jay.
you might, you might.
This milk is helping. I can't believe we're like 20 minutes in. We haven't even gotten to the AI discussion because my mouth is on fire from these hot peppers.
Well, this is the part in Hot Ones where the conversation would continue with with the questions and the
Right,
discussions.
right.
So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay,
Um,
you take the lead.
so this is about the Queen City Council candidate who
Yes,
posted a number of images that were doctored with AI, and this is a Republican candidate.
allegedly,
He was allegedly Republican?
allegedly doctored. He says his campaign account was hacked.
Right. So this is Jonathan David Rinaldi. According to the article, it says that he's been accused in the past of harassing political opponents. Um, and he posted some information, and people are calling it disinformation, completely
Okay,
false and disgusting. Oh no, he's saying it's wait, no. People are saying what he posted was disinformation, completely false and disgusting.
just
Um,
give me the milk.
I'm trying to see what it was exactly that he posted. Did you see any of the posts that he is
Yes.
accused of
Now,
posting?
this guy was known as the Sperminator.
The what?
The Sperminator.
Okay.
Thank you. Because he apparently had a Facebook page where he welcomed women to come and he would donate his sperm to make babies. I think he fathered over a dozen babies allegedly and did not charge these women from what this reporting is saying.
Okay. What's the okay? So that's why he was called that?
And so, yeah, so he earned the nickname Sperminator because it sounds like Terminator, I suppose. Um,
Okay.
he has been in the news for various antics. He did show up to a Queenslink rally and he started heckling, although
Mm.
he did not say, I'm going to finish this whole
Do you have
joke.
any ice cream?
I don't know.
Oh.
I might. And honey as helps as well.
Yeah,
So,
honey might also help. Take a big spoonful of honey. It might help break down the oils. So,
okay,
okay,
so
so
he went to the Queenslink rally, but he did not say that he had a problem with Queenslink. He was talking about, I believe, congestion pricing, and then he heckled some of the people who were at the rally, including Jumadi Williams and Zoran Mamdani. He's calling them communists and things like that. But he's known
right.
to kind of do that, show up with a bullhorn. I think he got himself arrested that, if you know, at least on one occasion as well, with his antics. And he's run for office
Okay.
several times as a Republican.
So, um, apparently what he's accused of is posting fake endorsements and doctored news articles on his
Yes.
social media, and they're AI generated images that make it look like they were stories in big publications like the Associated Press, New York Post, with like endorsements from like Cuomo, and among other people. And Cuomo and the others denied endorsing him, but he says that his accounts were hacked. Do we believe his accounts were hacked?
It seems far fetched, but who knows, right? Apparently,
Uh-huh.
he gave a speech at a community board meeting about the dangers of AI last month. And shortly thereafter, supposedly, some of these images started appearing on his campaign social media. He said he was
Hmm.
hacked, but this reporter, Ryan Swatch, actually, in the Queen's Daily Eagle, says that AI images have been on his pages dating back to at least April.
Okay. Now, it looks like from here that multiple politicians in the Queens County Republican Party have distanced themselves from him, saying that he is unfit from office due to his history of lies, harassment, and misinformation.
Right.
So I guess that kind of, I mean, it doesn't prove anything, but if your colleagues are saying that you're unfit for office,
He does have a reputation, let's put it that way.
right? Um, I think I think this is going to be happening more and more. Um, I'm sure it's already happening, but it's going to be more and more. And like I mentioned, the pregame, I think by next year it's going to be in full swing, where not only is it going to be stuff out there flooded, but there's going to be a lot of people purposefully flooding um, the atmosphere with these AI fakes, whether they're video or images, to spread disinformation for political gain or what have you, or even civil disrest, social
Right.
dis unrest,
And here's the
disrest.
thing.
Disrest is not a word. Civil and social unrest.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing.
Milk's the thing.
Yes, milk is helping, as is the honey. So this is a double-edged sword, I think. Is
Mm.
that the word, double-edged sword?
Yeah.
It, I think it poses multiple dangers, right? On the one hand, people are going to be using AI to try to convince you that things are true, which aren't true, right?
Yeah.
And this appears to be doing. But another effect of that, right, or a fallout from that potentially, is people are going to stop trusting what is true. So even if
Yeah.
something doesn't have AI involved whatsoever, it could be a
Yeah.
cell phone video. It could be something you see with your own eyes potentially, right? And at some
Yeah.
point, people are just not going to believe what they see, and they can say, "I don't know, AI is so good that could have been AI." And then people are going to try to muddy the waters, right, by
Right.
saying, "No, like if their favorite candidate was caught saying something crazy, no, that wasn't him, that was AI. Come on, you know what I mean?" And so
That's
people
where
aren't
the
going to
thing
know,
is.
right? They're not going to know what's real anymore.
See, that's where it is like I think one of the bigger dangers is that um this is going to give people an out from facing the truth,
Yeah,
right? So you could, if someone's got something wrong, you could present them with facts, but now you can question every fact and say it was AI, and so they never have to challenge their belief, and they don't, that gives them the out to challenge whatever thing that's opposing their belief system, even if it's wrong.
yeah.
And that's going to be a problem because they'll just say, "Oh, that's AI. Yeah, that's
And the
AI." It's
thing,
of
right?
course it's AI.
And the thing is, a lot of people don't do that much digging, right? And you can't blame them. They live very busy lives, and they're not spending their lives consuming political content and digging into it maybe as deeply as some of us might who do it for a living, right? Someone else, they're busy working their job, feeding their family. Maybe they look at commercials on TV, maybe they scroll on social media a little bit. But I think most people are more prone to reading the headlines or maybe the first paragraph of something or what other people are saying even. And so it's going to be very easy, I think, to deceive for that reason, right? For the fact that people
Yeah.
aren't doing that diligence on most things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if we don't if we don't get it together, it's a wrap. We are cooked because this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's going to get even better.
Well, I
Um
hope that's yeah, okay. As far as the technology is concerned, yes. But
yes.
I am hoping that we're going to get a better grasp on things
We're not.
goes on. You don't think so? You don't think there'll be
Absolutely not.
regulation that will have to be put in place, or people will be able to discern or
Nope.
learn to make that distinction better
No.
somehow as
No.
the years go on? You don't think so? You think it's going to get just completely muddied up to the point where no one's going to know what's real?
Absolutely.
Wow,
I think
that's
that's
scary.
exactly what's going to happen. I think the only way to curb it is there's going to have to be some sort of legislation in place to prevent certain uses or to curb certain uses, require watermarks or something. But even then, those can be cropped out. Um, but I don't think the people are gonna get used to it enough to where they can automatically spot it. Plus, like I said, by next year, I'd say the majority of the output you won't be able to spot that it's fake.
Well, in New York, campaigns are supposed to indicate materials that have been made with AI, right? And in this case, there is some potential legal action, namely the local newspaper that was shown saying something that it's saying that it didn't say. Let's see if we can find
Mm,
a headline here, because there were a few headlines that were posted. I see one was a New York Post mock-up that says Bob Holden crosses the aisle to endorse Rinaldi. Excuse me. Another one is an AP mock-up. This is Cuomo throws support behind Rinaldi's campaign, and it has it
mm,
looks like an AI image of them together. But there was one from the local paper, and the quote here from the editor of the paper, this is the Queen's Eagle. As the publisher of the Queen's Eagle, Mr. Rinaldi can expect legal action to prevent him from further use of our image in a distorted and fake use of our logo. And so
mm,
it does seem like there is pushback here, even from a legal point of view. And that can be a good thing, right? If
mm.
people are held to account for their use of AI in these deceptive manners.
Yeah. I think that's a deterrent, right? To some degree, the accountability of it.
Right.
Transparency, accountability, all these things are going to matter. Um,
Here's one.
but
This is from the Queen's Eagle. Apparently, there's a picture of the Queen's Eagle on the side of the image. It says support local news, make a contribution to the Queen's Eagle. So it looks like this is from the newspaper, and then it has pictures of two local elected officials from Forest Hills. You got Schulman, who is a city council member, and Hevesy, who is the assembly member. And it has a quote attributed to Hevesy in this, apparently AI or fake image, right? That says Schulman's unwavering backing of Mandami. Now here's the thing: it spells his name wrong, and it's actually written Mandami, right? The N before the M, which is not his actual name, in this Jewish neighborhood is a profound stain on her legacy and detrimental to our community's well-being. Hevesy came out and said he never said that, and he would never endorse this guy. This is just completely made up. It's nonsense. But
right,
it was attributed to him, and it is made to look like it's being reported in the Queen's Eagle, which it wasn't, and that is why they are now saying they will seek legal action against him.
right. Yeah.
So he's
Um,
running against Shulman. He's a Republican candidate running against Shulman, and he made it look like the local assembly member was pulling his support from her when that wasn't
mm,
the case.
mm. Yeah, this is so what do we do? What are we gonna do going forward? What do you think? This is
Right. Something needs to be done.
I'm
Like you
I'm
said, in New York, you're supposed to attribute AI. Should we be doing more?
yeah, should we? Like so with Sora 2 that just came out, it stepped the game up. It's kind of like Google's VO3, where not only does it create these realistic AI generated videos, but it also adds voice, it adds, sound effects, music, all of that stuff. Um, but what they've done, which was annoying at first, but after seeing how people are misusing it, I get it. They put watermarks all over the video that
Right.
move so that people
Now,
know that this was AI
I
generated.
was going to ask you that. Is that being done for that purpose, or is it because this is a new product and they're trying to advertise their product?
It's being done for that purpose, and they've said from the beginning, like even in the very beginning, they said there's going to be some extra strict guardrails on this while we learn how to use this responsibly. However, we've seen a lot of the guardrails already being run over with, people making videos of Martin Luther King, of Michael Jackson, of
Those
Kobe
Tupac ones are
Bryant,
crazy. I gotta
Tupac.
admit, I'm watching the Tupac ones and I am entertained.
Well, yeah, I mean, they are interesting. But then we got to look at the other side, right? Robin Williams, there are videos of
his,
him and his
his
daughter
daughter.
just came
Yeah,
out
yeah.
saying, "Stop sending those to me.
Right.
They're hurtful. I'm seeing my father do these things. It's just,
And here's the
you
thing, there are people who believe that is real. And with this story with this candidate, as you saw in one of the local groups, someone was like, I can't believe Holden endorsed him. And then someone else
right,
responded, that was AI. So at least it's getting out there that, but it is also deceiving people, right? So it is working to some degree at least. And
right,
with this Tupac stuff, you know how there are people who believe that Tupac never died, he moved to Cuba, all that kind of stuff. There are
yeah,
people who
yeah,
are now looking at these AI videos and saying that's not AI, that's Tupac coming back to life for real. And
yeah.
I think there
That's
are
a
people who are
problem.
just, right. These are mentally deranged people, obviously, but you know, they are believing it. People believe what they want to believe, and they'll use something like that to further the narrative that they want to promote.
Right, and that's the point that they're gonna believe what they want to believe,
Yeah.
and that can make things kind of dangerous. Um, and we already went through the, or still go through the disinformation that was being done that influenced our elections in what was it, was it 2020? No. Trump's
2016 it started.
Trump's
Yeah.
first term when Russia and China bots flooded social media. Now they're going to have not just them, but anyone who wishes to influence things has video capability to do that.
By the way,
They have AI text capability to do that.
yeah, and we're going to ask that in the poll. We're going to ask if people are less trusting of political messaging now. But I myself, since you brought up the interference in our elections, I myself have been questioning over the past few years, not AI or video related content, but I'll see these posts on various social media platforms where the basic purpose of them is to get people fighting in the comments.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think a lot of it is, you know, just people wanting more engagement on their pages, right? That it it does them well with the algorithm, right? To have more engagement, you know, that kind of thing. They make more money that way, also gain more followers potentially. But sometimes I wonder if these posts are created by foreign nationals or people in other countries.
Oh, absolutely. They're bot farm.
But,
They're either
but I'm saying
social media farms
for the
or
purpose of sowing division in the US and in Western societies.
absolutely. No, they are absolutely doing that. It's a strategy. Our weaknesses in the United States are glaringly obvious for anyone paying attention, right? And it's, social issues are a big thing. Class issues are a big thing. Racism is a big thing. Poke those bears. It's very
And it could be
obvious.
like, yeah, even little things like I saw one recently where they made people argue over how many fish fingers were appropriate to eat at dinner. But fish, so here's the thing, fish fingers is what they say in the UK, right? We call them fish sticks in the
Right,
US. But I think, and I could be wrong on this, but from when I was reading, I think the portions tend to be different sizes. And so what you ended up having was people in the UK fighting with people in the US over how many you should eat, but they were talking about different sizes of fish serving. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, so they weren't even arguing about the same thing. They were just like oh, they like you and then the people in the UK were saying Americans were fat slobs for having that many, but the portions were different.
Was Kanye West involved?
He should have been. But so
So,
someone was saying like, you know, you should only have two, and then you had your Americans come in and say we have at least 13 to 15, and like you Americans are all fat and obese, and you know that kind of stuff. So I was sitting there thinking like, was this created by someone in Russia or in China for the purpose of making us fight?
um, you know, I would not put it past. Um, that's, there's another thing. There's a group, and this is even before AI. There's a group online, and you're probably familiar with 4chan.
Yeah.
There were a lot of
Oh yeah.
disinformation campaigns from
Yes.
4chan
I
that
remember that.
influenced the news and people, and it's just people, trolling.
And didn't some of it get actually pretty mainstream? Like It started
Yeah,
off
yeah,
on a
yeah.
message board, like let's just make up something crazy and see if we can get them to believe it. And then so many people believed it that it wasn't even like you were painted as a tin foil hat wearing conspiracy theorist for saying it. Everyone was, not everyone, but like a lot of people were saying it to the point where it's almost socially acceptable to say it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Pizzagate started at
Right.
4chan.
Wasn't that one of the things where they just said, let's just see if we can get them to believe this? And a lot of people did.
It's one of them. Pizzagate started at 4chan. Uh what was this symbol being white supremacy,
Yes,
that
yes.
started at 4chan. They were just like, let's see what we can get them to believe. And then the thing with that, it started spreading so much that
It
white
became,
supremacists started using it.
right. They co opted it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it became that symbol that they were spreading. But it was all made up from these kids on 4chan.
Right. They would take like even like Jay-Z album covers where he did something with his fingers and they were like, that proves he's an Illuminati or something.
Yeah, yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of we could trace several big
Yeah.
conspiracies from the internet or big controversies from the internet to 4chan. So
Also,
now,
the thing about, sorry to cut you off. There was a,
no, go
I don't
ahead.
know if this was 4chan or QAnon or one of those. There was the thing about how the gay movement and then the trans movement were going to go next to something a lot more devious. I forget what it was. Was it? It might have been boy like pedophile stuff, either pedophile stuff or
Mhm.
like animal stuff. But they were trying to put them all in the same category and make it seem like that was considered a legitimate part of their movement to make people be against the LGBTQ population.
Right. They've started uh a lot of these memes
Yeah.
that uh far right groups use. They've done a lot of racist violent conspiracies. Yeah. Now the thing is, now they're gonna have this arsenal of
Mm-hmm.
AI to fake reality.
Mm.
And this is what they were able to accomplish just through text and Photoshop images. Like, we're gonna have to stay on our toes because yeah, it's coming in a big way.
So I want to know what the people think about this. And again, it isn't just about you not trusting a video because you think it's AI, but the other way around, right? Like when you start seeing things that are not AI and thinking it might be, or just not knowing what to believe anymore in general. So the poll question of the week is: are the advances in AI technology making you less trusting of political messaging? You know,
Yeah,
and like you said, we really do need to have checks on this more than just, I guess, you should let us know if you're using AI, right? I mean, certainly you shouldn't be allowed to use it in a deceptive way, but then
right.
those lines can be hard to draw because there still are First Amendment rights, and people can say, listen, I wasn't trying to convince people that that was real. I was just making a point, right? I was, I made an AI video of my opponent saying this crazy thing, not because I was trying to convince them they really said that, but because I was trying to say, wouldn't it be scary if we had someone in office who talked like that? And or maybe I can see them saying something like that, and I want to show people how scary it would be if that became reality. So you know what I mean? Like people can kind of play with that and say, I've got a right. It's
Sure,
art. It's expression, right? It doesn't mean
sure,
it has to be taken literally, but that a lot of people are going to think it is real. It is literal. Right? So
sure.
where is that line to be drawn?
I was just having that exact conversation last night, talking with someone out here. And in Japan, there is a small but growing movement of far right extremism and beliefs.
Wow.
And even in politics, there was a group that had recently did a pretty good showing in the elections, and they're a right-wing group, and their message is Japan first, and they openly admit that they are taking influences from Donald Trump. Um, and so the idea that they're pushing is basically like a lot of the ills of what's happening are due to foreigners. And so the point that I
So
was
let me
making,
ask you this though. So does Japan have a very large foreign population?
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. They're not even there's not even close. The Japan is still probably about 98% non-foreign.
And so they want to blame all the problems of Japan on those 2%.
Right. They're saying Japan's being taken over. The foreigners are coming in, disrupting everything. Um, And so they're blaming that. And then of course, when situations are tough for people, groceries prices are increasing here, wages have been stagnant, everything's going up. People look for reasons, someone to blame. Why is my life not as good as it should be type of
Right.
situation? And foreigners are an easy target. What you don't understand, what you don't know, you can fear easily. And so the point was that, you know, imagine someone in that group or someone of that ideology making a video, an AI video of a foreigner in the streets of Japan being a nuisance, being disruptive, and then spreading that around and being like, here, look, see, look, an example of how these foreigners are acting here in Japan. And as an example, I made one within less than 5 minutes and I
Mm.
sent it to him. I said, you see, this is how easy it would be, and Japan is, I would say, on a whole, the populace of Japan is probably less technologically inclined. A lot of people say I'm analog here. Um, and
It's funny
so
because a lot of innovations in technology come from Japan.
there are a lot, but those are the people who are in those fields.
Right.
But the general populace,
Right.
they just it
I
turn
wanted to
something
ask you
on, it works. And so they're
about video
probably more
games.
inclined to believe these things.
I wanted to ask you about video games. I don't know if you have this information, but I remember when I was a kid, like we get Nintendo games and stuff like that came from Japan, but a lot of the games were released in Japan first, maybe like a year before we got them in the US. And I was wondering how big they were. I mean, you weren't there at the time, so you might not be able to answer that. But was that
Right.
a big part of Japanese culture? Like, like the Final Fantasy games, we came to the U.S., but they were always released, and even they have different numbers in the U.S. Right? Like our Final Fantasy two was their Final Fantasy four because they had more games released in the series in Japan. So I was kind of,
Hmm.
as a kid, that was kind of my relationship with Japan, right? That they got the video games before we did. So I was always wondering, like, was that a big part of Japanese culture?
It was a part of that part of the culture, the gaming culture, yeah. But I think even now, like people think, when you think about Japan, you think of anime, right?
Mhm.
The animated cartoons.
Right?
And so some people come here and think like everyone is just gaga over anime, and it's just not the case.
Pokemon, right? Pokemon.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't even watch any of it.
Yeah,
It's a core group of people that, of course there are fans and there are millions,
that's true.
sure.
Because when I went to Japan Village in Brooklyn, they had a whole anime store, and there were kids in there who were playing the games. And I think they had like a
Yeah, yeah,
tabletop. I guess
sure.
like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of game, or with cards or something. But it was like a whole thing. And yeah, that's our Japan Village. So it kind of paints the picture. Like if you go to Japan, you can see this everywhere you look.
Right. And you can find it in places, but I
Yeah.
mean, as the population at large is not gonna
Right.
sit down and have like these deep conversations on anime episodes.
Hmm.
There are people who are interested in it. Those people love it like that. And then there are
Yeah.
people who just ignore it, just like any other place.
Right.
So,
So you're saying, on the whole, you think the population is not as technologically savvy?
yeah. And so I think they will be more inclined to believe these fake AI videos if pushed that these are real, because they're just not presented with one, the culture doesn't present itself to question what's being delivered. And two, they're just not as used to using technology in that type of way. So, yeah, I think it could be an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to move on to the next topic. But before we do, didn't you just do an AI seminar? Why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I did an AI workshop about 2 days ago, which, it was about using AI responsibly, more chat GPT, not image generation stuff, but
Mhm.
things like chat GPT and Gemini. And I use it with health and wellness practitioners because, not that I'm recommending that people use it for consulting with their cases, but that we know people are using it, right? Students are using it, practitioners are using it, patients are using it, and I think it's important to know the benefits, but the drawbacks as
Right.
well, the limitations. know that it can be confidently wrong, and communicate the message that the user, the human, needs to be the arbiter of the final decision. You have to be the one that is making the decision. You have to check everything on it. And so, yeah, it went off great. I was very surprised. Like initially, I was gonna do it on Zoom because, with Zoom you get with the regular account, it's like 100 seat limit on it. I quickly blew through that, ended up with about 330 to 350 registrations. So I was pleasantly surprised and kind of humbled, actually.
Nice. And
Yeah.
so you had a lot of people, a lot of them showed up and you had a good event.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I'm actually, made it available. I'm making it available for free as well for the replay.
Okay.
So keeping the information out there, but got a lot of good feedback as well. So, and I may actually maybe doing a similar workshop at a university in the spring in Japan. So it's just kind
Okay.
of, who knows? Maybe that's the new thing, huh?
Do a TED talk on AI.
Well, it's, the AI education right now is
Yeah.
sorely needed,
No, absolutely.
especially in
The
basic
ethics of
level.
it. It's funny.
Ethics. Yeah.
I have to redo my law license at the end of the year. I'll report back because I got to do 24 hours worth of CLE credits, and it's watching a lot of videos updating
Right.
you on developments in the law, and part of that is ethics as well. I
Right.
am convinced, I'm about positive that some of that content is going to be AI related. It would have to be, right? The
It
ethics
has to
as a
be.
lawyer. Yeah.
It has to be. So,
I'll let you know how that goes too when I take those classes. Luckily, my birthday is at the end of the year. I think they do it by your birth month. And since I'm in
right.
December, it always works out that I have until the end of the year to take my classes. And so, Christmas break around that time, I usually sit at home and watch a bunch of CLE classes.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So, with the time we have left, I did write an article in this week's edition of The Wave in Rockaway here in Queens. And the topic was
Scala's rap.
yes, the topic was be prepared for ballot questions. So, we're all talking about the mayor's race and things like that. But when you go to vote in November, there will be 6 questions on the ballot for you here in New York City, at least. And you
Mm,
really should know what those questions are. We've talked about this in the past on the show, how when you go to vote, they don't really give you a whole lot of information at the poll site, right? And so if you don't know what you're going to vote on, you're really lost, right?
right.
And so make sure you do that research because these are very important questions. And in fact, some of the stuff is very transformational, right? If it passes, a lot is going to change within New York City government. So we can get into them. And why don't we get your reaction, Jay, as to what you think
Uh-oh.
about these? Just first impressions. Obviously, you haven't done extensive research on them, but just hearing about them, do you think they sound like good ideas or bad ideas, or maybe more information would be required? So
Okay.
the first question is something that everyone in the state will have to vote for because it's a proposal to amend the New York State Constitution. Now, the New York State Constitution has a clause called the Forever Wild Clause. It actually sounds kind of cool, right? The Forever Wild Clause of the Constitution.
Okay.
We talk about like the federal Constitution has freedom of speech and these different clauses, right? The Commerce Clause. Well, in New York State, we have the Forever Wild Clause. Any guess as to what the Forever Wild Clause is about?
Forever Wild?
Yeah.
The right for people to be feral?
No.
Okay. No, I have no idea what that is.
So it relates to forest land, right? They call it the Forest Preserve in upstate New York. And it's saying that this land shall be forever wild, meaning it can't be bought, sold, or developed. And the trees on it can't be destroyed or altered, right? So you got to keep it forest for it. It's got to be
Okay.
forever wild, the forever wild forest. But with that being said, there are often exceptions passed, right? So because it's in the Constitution, state Constitution, if you want to carve out an exception for your project, you want to develop some of this land, you have to actually get a constitutional amendment, right? The state constitution must be amended to say, yeah, we have a forever wild clause that applies to this land except for such and such, right? So this is the first question that we're voting on. It relates to the Olympic Sports Complex in upstate New York. It's a town called North Elba, 300 miles north of Queens, but it's like directly north, way up, kind of close to the Canadian border, actually. Um, what they want to do is they want to expand this complex to make it more modern. They want to develop Nordic ski trails and biathlon trails in the forest preserve because right now they don't have that, and they're saying they can't do the training and the contests, right? The events that they want to hold there because this
Right.
complex doesn't have that currently. So in order to do that, they would have to cut down some trees in the forest, right? Develop some of this forest land. And so they're asking for an amendment here, which would allow them to develop up to 323, or I guess 323 acres would be affected by this development, which is a lot, but they're planning to offset it by adding an additional 2,500 acres to the preserve, which needs to be decided on, where that's going to be. That isn't in the amendment, but it would need to be decided upon. So obviously people who support it cite the economic benefits of it, saying that it will help modernize this Olympic facility and bring in more money to the state. People who are against it are concerned about environmental concerns, right? Species of animals maybe being disrupted and things like that. So
So
what are your thoughts?
by by altering this 323 acres of land, they're
Yeah,
going to add an additional 2,500 acres of land to be protected.
correct.
Just
However,
initially, it sounds like a good trade-off.
right.
However,
If you look at just the amount of acreage affected, but you also have to think about things like, well, what if there are certain species, right, or certain animal
right,
populations that live in those 300 some acres, you know,
right.
right? And just by saying, oh, well, we're going to create 2,500 new acres somewhere else, you know, maybe those animals won't get the memo, or it might affect their population.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and this is just for a ski, like a ski resort.
Well, it's not quite a
Or no,
resort.
not resort,
It's an Olympic
Olympic
sports
sports
complex. I do
complex.
believe the Winter Olympics were held in that area many years ago. So,
Yeah.
they're trying to get it up to date.
Yeah. I wonder what
It's by Lake Placid.
right. They did have, didn't they have Olympics at Lake Placid?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
I wonder what is, inadequate about the facility now if they've been training there this whole time. Maybe,
They don't
instead of
have apparently.
expanding.
Yeah, apparently they don't have Nordic ski and biathlon trails. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I'm not into this kind of sporting, but
Yeah, is that really necessary?
if you're not a Nordic skier or biathlon athlete, probably not, right? But to
Like
them,
how big is Nordic skiing really? Like
right. It might have to do with some
um
kind of regulation. I don't know. And I don't know if they're going to try to make a bid for the Winter Olympics in the future, but they're trying to
right.
make sure that, right, they're in compliance with whatever is part of regulation sporting for that type of deal, right? Those winter sports.
Right. I think, it depends on there's a lot of more information that I would want to hear first. I do like the idea of adding 2,500 new acres to be protected with I guess within the state. It's probably not going to be in that same region, right? Or
It's
they
in
haven't
that
specified.
region of, I believe it's in that region of the state because these are,
Okay.
it's the forest preserve by the Adirondacks. It's a certain area, but it may not be exactly, it's not going to be exactly obviously where this is because this is going to become part of the sports complex.
Right. So I kind of like that. And if it's just a ski trail, I don't know a lot about how much damage or influence those things have on the wild. Um, it doesn't seem like it would be too disruptive, but yeah, it would need more information, I
And
think.
yeah, that is true. And so, to whom would you look for that information? Environmental groups? Where would you try to find more information on that?
You'd have to look at other places where they have these particular features, right? These Nordic ski trails and I don't even know what a biathlon trail is in a forest. Because I'm thinking, and again,
Yeah.
I don't know this field, but a Nordic ski trail, you're not paving over anything. You should, At most, I would think you're cutting
Cutting
down a
down
trail to
trees.
go through.
You're cutting down trees, though, right?
Um, you're cutting down some trees because the Nordic ski is not the fast one. That's the one where like you're kind of just power walking with the skis. So
Right,
I
but
don't.
you have to have a lot of room, right? Aren't there still ski lifts and different facilities that need to be built and stuff, right? It isn't just the trail itself.
That I don't know. I think the Nordic skiing thing is more like the cross country version
Okay.
of skiing where you're not going up and down slopes. You're going just using the skis to walk through the place
Okay.
essentially.
I'm assuming
But
there's still some kind of infrastructure that has to accompany it.
that's what I would need to know. And so I would look at other Nordic ski trails and biathlons and see what kind of infrastructure that they had or they required to when
Now
they
let
were
me ask you
building.
this. Let me ask you this. How many New York voters do you think are researching
None.
other Nordic ski trails around the country before they go to vote on this question?
None.
Okay.
I
That's all I'm
doubt
wondering.
any. I doubt anyone cares really, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I
This is
mean,
very specific, right? This is
people
not,
care. People care in a general sense, right? On the one hand, some people like it's good for the economy. On the other hand, or maybe they might be like, hey, my child is a Nordic skier. That sounds great, right? Something like that. On the other hand, some people might
right,
be like, it's just bad for the environment. And I think
right,
people kind of measure, weigh those out and just measure it that way without
right.
really going deep into the nuance on it. And if you look at the current constitution, right, of New York State, you see that forever wild clause. There are a bunch of carve outs. So it'd be like,
Sure.
notwithstanding that, this town shall be allowed some of the forest land for their
Right,
firehouse or whatever. Like a bunch of
right.
different. So it's like everyone wants to come in and say, yeah, all right, the forest is forever wild, but we get to use it, right? So,
Right. Well, I
uh,
think you're right, exactly. And in that point, this carving out an additional new 2,500 acres, to me, I don't know what the other reasons for
yeah.
carve outs, but this does sound like it's a good faith effort to, to do something here.
The
Yeah.
other thing that happens too is, like we said, it's a state constitutional amendment, so everyone across the state has to vote on it. But if you're so far away from it, right, like in New York City with 300 plus miles from it, people are going to look at that and go, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. It's so far away from where I live, and whatever. You know what I mean? I think people might
Yeah.
even lean towards yes because it doesn't bother them, right? Like, whatever you want to do, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So,
So, all right.
all right.
That's question one. And we'll see if there's any significant lobbying done, right? A lot of times these measures will just pass without significant opposition if things are kept pretty quiet about them. I think most people not having a lot of information one way or another just kind of tend to shrug and be like, I guess, right? But if you have strong lobbying efforts, like if there were to be environmental groups coming out strongly and spending millions of dollars on an information campaign, hopefully it's an honest one, right? To convince voters to vote no, then you might see some of these things get voted against.
Yeah.
So there's that. The other questions relate to New York City in particular, right? These concern the New York City Charter, and they need a vote of the people of New York City to revise the charter. So think of it as similar to a constitutional amendment at the state level or at the federal level, right? When you're amending the Constitution, you're revising the New York City Charter. And questions two and three, and four as well, are about affordable housing, but two and three are very similar in how they're formulated. And I think you'll find this interesting. And I have my thoughts about this from a legal and constitutional perspective as well, but I'm curious to hear yours. So,
Mm.
question two deals with publicly funded housing, right? So it's affordable housing projects that receive government money
What we're going to be talking about,
to build them.
Whoa, what happened? All
I
right,
hear
there
an
we go.
echo there. Okay.
Yeah.
So currently there's something called the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, or ULURP as it's known. And I won't go into details and bore people. You can look it up yourself. ULURP, a lot of people in New York City are familiar with it. It's the rezoning process that you have to go through for development, right? Major land decision. If you're trying to rezone, you've got to go through this process. And it is a pretty long process, right? It involves public input, the ability for people to come speak on it. It actually starts at the community board level, works its way to the borough president. There's a vote by the city council. The mayor signs it, right? It's a whole big thing. But the idea is, if you're trying to rezone for these projects, you want to make sure that enough people are on board with it, right? From the local communities all the way up the chain. So the argument here is that it's taking too long to build affordable housing, right? They're saying there's an affordable housing crisis. And
Sure.
so what they want to do is bypass that ULURP procedure for some of these projects, namely publicly funded projects. And instead of going through that whole process, they want the Board of Standards and Appeals to be able to decide on these applications. Now, the other thing that it would do is fast track applications in community districts with the lowest amount of affordable housing. So, what's a community district? In New York City, we have community boards. People might know each borough has different community boards. And so they look at the district that that community board comprises and they want to do. And this is going to change. It's not like it's just going to happen now when they're saying, well, what are the districts in New York City with the lowest amount of housing now? No, they're going to keep putting out reports periodically on which districts have the lowest amount of housing to try to adjust this. So they want to do the ones with the lowest amount of housing. They want to be able to fast track applications in those districts where the city planning commission would have the final authority, meaning, again, the mayor and the city council would not have to weigh in on it, right? Normally, what we said, once it goes through its initial phases, it goes on for a vote before the city council, and then the mayor signs off on it, or the mayor can veto it, right? That will be taken out the process. It would stop at the city planning commission phase, and that would be it. You would not have the mayor or the city council's input. So on the one hand, you can say, well, this might cut costs to make projects go faster, right? Get approved faster. You can build them faster. But on the other hand, it's taking away oversight from elected officials. It's putting the decision making in the hands of bureaucrats, essentially.
Right. Yeah, I don't like that it's excluding the mayor and the city council. I understand that the idea is to speed up the process and get more affordable housing. I would try to I would think there should be a process that speeds it up while keeping them in the loop because I think it just kind of feels like, and maybe I'm incorrect, that it opens it up for mismanagement in that case if it doesn't have the oversight of at least the city council, right? Even if
Right.
you took the mayor out, but at least the city council, like,
Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting because that actually relates to one of the other questions, but we'll get there. But I wanted to say this by custom, right? Although the whole city council votes on these decisions, the
mm,
custom is that the city council defers to the council member whose district the project is in. And so if that local council member says no, the city council on the whole tends to vote no because they want that favor returned, right? They want the same courtesy afforded to them when they're making their decisions in their district. And so some will argue that the local council member has too much power over a local project, right? And then that's why the city council member is probably the most powerful person in your district because by custom, if someone wants to build something there and they are against it, the whole city council is going to have their back.
yeah, but I mean, there's still a there's still a process in place that it has to get checked. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right. And
so
then,
even
and then
if
the mayor
even
can
if that
veto.
person usually gets defaulted to, there is a process in place that says that, we don't necessarily have to default to them if, you
Right.
know, everything else disagrees with it.
Right.
Um, so
So question three, because it relates also, I just want to get this out there. Question three is similar to two. It's going to create another kind of fast track system for what they call modest housing and infrastructure projects. So they're looking at ones that aren't going to be as transformative, right? Maybe smaller projects. They're saying that if you give smaller builders the ability to fast track the process, they'll be able to access it more, right? Because it won't cost them as much money. There won't be as many hurdles against them. And they're saying right now, because the process is so lengthy and expensive, it only encourages large developers. And so this is a way to get smaller builders into the game potentially. But again, it's taken away the city council and the mayor's input, and they're saying they can just go right, to the bureaucrats to make that decision.
yeah, no, you know, I would prefer that the mayor and the city council stay in the loop on that as part of that. I do agree that it shouldn't just be, you know, for the bigger developers, that these modest or smaller developers should have access to be able to get projects approved like the others. So, um, I think here, like a mix would come into place.
What do you mean a mix would come into place?
Well, this is saying that, this what proponents argue this would encourage smaller builders rather
Right.
than only large developers. All right, because there's some of the concerns with costs and this type of thing. You
Yeah,
know,
going through the whole process that we have now.
right. Make it more accessible to smaller developers.
How so?
Not it's I don't know however the process works, but um just not cut out the mayor and the city council like the other one, but find some way to, give these
Right.
smaller developers a chance as well to come in and build whatever
Yeah.
projects they're working on.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, right? Like it almost feels like either a sleight of hand or maybe a form of gaslighting. I'm not sure the right phrase, but they're trying to make you feel bad. They're trying to make you, have sympathy for these smaller builders and think this is the only way to do it. But to your point, there are other ways you can encourage small developers without taking away oversight from elected officials.
Right, right. So
So
I don't know what hurdles that they have to go through to get their projects reviewed or approved.
yeah,
Um, but it
it's
sounds like there's
yeah.
something that could potentially prevent the smaller builders from getting in there that the bigger builders are able to do. Maybe try to streamline that a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of lobbying that goes into it. Obviously you get a lot of
Right,
pushback from communities, lawsuits get
right,
filed a lot of the times, and
right, right.
you know what I mean? It's a long process. A lot of people have to weigh in on it, and it does oftentimes become costly, right? And so they're saying that
Sure.
someone who's just starting out, small business or whatever, might not have the resources to see that through to the finish line.
Right. So maybe there's ways to deal with that as a separate issue, instead of this idea, because I just don't. It sounds like it could be abused very well, very
Right.
much here.
No, absolutely. Right. No, it's scary to me because it just takes power out of the people's hands. As
Right,
corny as that might sound, that's what's happening.
right,
If someone decides that they want this project built, it's going to get built because of someone, in a dark room saying it shall be, instead of
right,
shining light on the situation. And yeah, once the city council has to weigh in on it, well, what does that do? That enables the constituents of that city council member to make noise about it, right? And obviously, if enough
right,
constituents of the council member are saying they're against this or they're for this, or whatever, the council member is likely to take that in consideration because they want their votes, right? They want to be reelected. So that is
right,
the benefit of having an elected official, I think, have to weigh in on this, as opposed to someone who's just hired. Who are they hired by, too, right? So you can't always trust that they're going to make the objectively best unbiased decision. They're probably trying to serve the people who hired them, right? And so
sure,
uh,
sure.
right, so it's not like you're just getting now politically free decisions. It's just a different political actor is making that decision, namely one who's not elected.
Right. And so yeah, I'm not really on board with that part of it. So
So all right, I know I
I'm
agree.
voting no. I'm voting no on that one.
Yeah, so am I. Now
On
here,
those two. Yeah, go ahead.
right, yes, I agree. Question 4, we said, also deals with affordable housing, but this is different. And this one I find very interesting from a legal point of view, and I want to get your thoughts on it. This has to do with the ability to veto affordable housing decisions. So we said that the city council votes on it, right? It's considered now like other legislation. The city council would vote on it. The mayor either signs it or can veto it. And if the mayor signs it, well, the city council can override the mayor's veto, right? So you have these checks and balances in place.
Right.
This would destroy that whole system.
Yeah, I'm voting no on this.
It would replace it with a new board composed of the mayor, the speaker of the city council, and the local borough president, meaning
No.
the borough president of that borough where the development is in question, right?
Yeah,
So
no, no bueno.
you want to build something in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn borough president, and so forth. A 2/3 vote would be required for a veto. And so you've got 3 people on this board, right? Mayor, speaker, local BP. 2 of the 3 of them would have to vote for the veto, which I guess makes sense because there's only 3 of them. So a 2/3 vote is the same thing as a majority vote when you have only 2 people, right?
Right, right.
So that part makes sense. All right. But
But the
yeah, the concept of it. And here's the thing, this reminds me of the old school Board of Estimate. Some people might not recall the Board of Estimate in New York City. I believe it was struck down in 1989. It was struck down as unconstitutional because what it would do is it would have the mayor and other officials, including the borough presidents, on it, right? And it did try to account for the differences in population by giving more votes, or or the votes were weighed based on the borough, right? So the boroughs with more population had more power in it, but still, it wasn't evenly distributed by population, right? Obviously, and so what you had was this board making major decisions for the entire city, including the budget, right? New York City's
Mhm.
budget. And the court struck it down as unconstitutional because of the principle of one person, one vote. A voter in one borough should not be more powerful than a voter in a different borough when it comes to decisions that are affecting everyone in the city, right? So that's what you had, right? If you're in Staten Island, which is the least populated borough, you're the borough president there, and you have a vote on this board along with borough presidents from boroughs with much larger populations. Well, that one vote, even if it's weighed a little bit, is still going to carry much more weight, right, than the votes of the borough presidents with a greater population. So they said that that is a violation of equal protection. It's you're giving some people more power than others by doing that.
No, I agree. I think the opportunity for abuse and collusion by concentrating it just in
Mm,
the hands of 3 people, it definitely goes up. I don't think cutting out the city council is a good idea.
right.
Um, I understand that some of these processes take longer than we'd like. Modernize that process without taking out some of the checks and balances.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And that's how the borough presidents lost their power in the first place, right? They used to be pretty powerful officials because they got to vote on the city budget and things. Once that was declared unconstitutional, their role was largely ceremonial, right? There are certain things they can do still, but they don't have
Mm.
nearly the power that they used to. And the city council got that power, right? And the
I think
idea
it sounds better.
each city council district, obviously this isn't perfect, it never is, but each city
Right.
council district is supposed to have approximately the same population throughout the entire city, right? And so that's why if a council member is voting on the budget, well, each council member represents the same chunk of the city, right? The same size
Mhm.
of the city. And so each council member's vote can be counted equally. And that's a fair system, as opposed to having a borough president that can represent millions more people and their vote is the same as someone else's vote with millions less. In that case, the official with this lower population actually is more powerful because it doesn't take as many people to yield that same power, right? To have that same say.
Mm-mm-mm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I I'm voting no here.
yeah, me too. And I think if this one were to pass, it would be subject to legal challenges and probably struck down for the same reason the Board of Estimate was. And we already
Yeah.
litigated this in the city, and this is why we said the borough presidents lost their power. Now
Yeah.
they're trying to go back to that, which is really deemed unconstitutional. All right.
Yeah, I don't like this idea of concentrating power. Again, like you mentioned, I think checks and balances is the best word, and we're seeing too
Mhm.
much consolidation in power in different levels of government where it's supposed to be spread out for the people to have more access or representation. And I think that's the way. That's the American way. It's supposed to be anyway.
Right. Right. I mean, if you're a voter in a borough with a smaller population, your vote is going to mean more, right,
Yeah.
than a voter in a very populated borough, right? Because
All right.
it's like a smaller group of people controlling the same chunk of the city basically as people, right, that are outnumbering you. which
Right.
is not fair. Everyone's supposed to have the same power. So
Right.
the thing about that, though, and I want before we move on to question five, I guess a counter argument to that would be that they're looking at the local borough president. So what they're going to try to argue is they're making an affordable housing decision in a borough. So the people in the other boroughs should not be concerned about that. It's not affecting them directly. That's what they're going to say, right? Like, you want to build some affordable housing in Queens. Why shouldn't the Queensboro president have a say on it? How does that affect people in Staten Island anyway?
Yeah, but I don't think they should pull out the city council.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you got the mayor, currently the mayor and the city council have basically weigh in. Now, if you want to add the local borough president to that, I can see where that would make sense.
But see, I still think that that's unconstitutional because these decisions do affect the whole city. Kind of like
Right.
the Commerce Clause at the federal level, right?
Right.
Commerce Clause was used. This is the Interstate Commerce Clause saying that the Congress, meaning the federal government, has oversight over matters of interstate commerce as opposed to intrastate, meaning matters that are solely confined to that one single state, which is left to those
Right.
states, right? So if it's interstate, it's the Congress. All right, that was used to justify the Civil Rights Act, and it was challenged, but it was upheld. And
Mm.
the idea was, let's say you are driving down the interstate with your family. You're going from state to state, right, on the highway, and you want to stop at a hotel in a given state. If that hotel were to discriminate against you on the basis of race, so you can't stay here, um, you will then get in your car and probably drive to a hotel in a different state where they would allow it, right?
Mm.
So even though these decisions are happening within states, they affect the interstate economy, right? They don't happen in a bubble, in a vacuum, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. These decisions are affecting what goes on nationally, right? So I think something similar applies here. If you're building affordable housing or anything you're building in one borough, you might want to look at it through a very narrow lens and say, oh, that only affects the people in that borough. But it really doesn't. It's affecting, you know, it has ripple effects, I guess I would say, that
Sure,
affect
sure,
people
sure.
throughout the whole city, right? So
Right.
that's why I think having a borough president able to weigh in on it is a violation of equal protection
Okay.
because people in other boroughs don't get that same say, and it does affect them too. But see, the way
Okay.
it is now with the city council and the mayor, like we said, each city council district in the city has roughly the same population. And so if the city council is voting on it, there's no problem with fairness there, right?
Right.
The only problem is, like we said, by custom, the local council member decides, but that, like you said, that's a custom. There still is a vote. And so someone can
Right.
vote no, right? And so
Yeah.
if it's a decision that's going to affect what happens to land or zoning in the city, I think that the entire city should be able to weigh on it via its elected
Right.
officials, right? Because
Right.
that equally distributes the power in that sense. It doesn't make
Sure.
people in one area more powerful than people in another area.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So voting no.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know on that. Question five probably is the least controversial, and not much is really out there on this. It's about modernizing the city map. They're saying right now they're still using old maps, and there are problems with street signs, street namings, and some technical things. I guess there are some like real, city planning nerds that are really into this kind of stuff. But the idea is to modernize the map, which is supposed to create more uniformity in city planning. I think it relates to the streets in particular. So I don't think this one is going to have any problems passing. I don't see people voting no on this one.
Yeah. Off top, just on the on the face, it
Mhm.
seems like something that should be done. Um,
Right.
Personally, I would I think you just easily just call up Google and be like, "Yo, can we get your Google Maps data? We just want to update our map
Yeah.
and be done with it." But
So
yeah, I would vote yeah, go ahead, let's do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm a yes on that one. Question 6 is interesting. Now, this one isn't going to be automatically passed. There's still other steps legally that would have to be enacted, but this is just to get the city's permission on it, right? Kind of like a home rule thing they call it. So the idea here is to move our local elections to even numbered years. Right now, we know they're in
Right.
odd years. Like we have a mayoral race this year, it's an odd numbered year. And this would move our local races, mayor, city council, public advocate, controller, to even numbered years. The even numbered years are the ones with higher turnout, right? Because that's when you have your presidential races, your governor's races, your congressional races. So the idea would be number one, I guess you would save money by kind of consolidating when you're having elections. And number two, you would increase turnout for these local races because a lot of people don't come out to vote just when it's the city council or the mayor, even, right? But when
Right.
it's the president or the governor, whoo, they all come out in higher numbers. And so you would get
Right.
more people weighing in on these local races.
Yeah, I mean it would also save money, right?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have to run elections and other, more elections than are
Yeah.
necessary, so to speak.
But it would hurt some people's businesses. Like our poor friend Andre doesn't like this. People who make their business doing campaigns. If campaign work only happened every 2 years, it wouldn't be so good for them.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, to implement this, wouldn't that also mean that the if they're gonna postpone it one extra year, the people that are in office now would get an extra year on their term,
Or they can do it the other way, and they would have
an interim person for 1 year,
not interim person, but maybe just another
a
election,
short term.
short term. Yeah.
Yeah.
What they do
But if
now
I'm
in New
not
York City,
mistaken,
when they redraw the maps, and every 20 years in New York City, they do have shortened terms for the city council members, right? We just went through this here,
mm,
where usually it's every 4 years, but when they do redistricting, it's every 2 years. But it's so you would get, your 2 year term, then your 2 year term, which is the equivalent of one full term, and then your 4 year term. So the number of years would be the same in that case, but there would be more
mm.
elections for them to have to win.
If I'm not mistaken, when I think I read about this
Mm-hmm.
before, and what they were proposing was basically that the people in office would stay on an extra year.
Really?
In my, or was that a different area? Because someone else has also proposed this
Yeah,
same type
I
of.
hadn't heard that.
Oh, okay.
It might result in another election, which they wouldn't be happy about.
Right. So, oh, all right. Yeah, I think on the surface it looks like a better system, more streamlined.
Yeah, I think I agree, but I mean there are
Sorry, Andre.
counterpoints. There are counterpoints to that as well. Like, is it going to overwhelm people or distract them or detract from the importance of a certain contest, right? Like, let's say it was the presidential election aligned with your local city council races and even the mayor's race. Let's say the president and the mayor were running at the same exact time. Everyone's going to be talking about the presidential race. Would that kind of take away
Mm,
our opportunity to have a real discussion about the mayor's race? Because people will probably just vote in party lines. They tend to do, especially people who don't
yeah,
come out and vote that often, right? Like the people who were never voting for mayor before, they only vote for president. They're not looking at
right.
the mayor's race that carefully, and so they're probably just going to go right down the party line.
Yeah, that's true too. Um, I think that's a good question to ask. I think also though, one of the benefits sounds like it could also potentially reduce voter fatigue or campaign fatigue.
Because you don't always have political messaging hitting you over the head.
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm not.
Also, a question of when to do it, just because you say even in New York, for example, right? We have our governor's races a different year as our presidential races, right? Like we did 2010, 2014, 2018,
Mhm.
2022, presidentials 2012, 2016, 2020, 2020, right? The leap years. And
Right.
so there remains a question of how are you aligning these local races, right? Are the mayor's races and the city council races going to be aligned with the governor's race or with
Mm,
the presidential race? Because that would make a difference too,
mm, 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 mm.
right?
Yeah. Um,
Or would it be
I
staggered? It might be
I might
staggered as it is now, right? Because if you think about it, well, I don't know. Because some people came in at different times, but you would want to make it uniform, right? Like in 2017, we had our citywide elections and all the city council seats were up for grabs. 2021, same deal. So yeah, you would have to have a year, like unless you're going to create a new system where they're staggered, you would think there would still be a year, either even, either the presidential one or the gubernatorial one, where they would all be voted on,
right,
right? And that's the
right,
system we have now, unless you're going to make drastic changes to that system.
right. Uh, I think that that also brings up like, maybe in other, the political fatigue and campaign fatigue, there are
Mm-hmm.
going to be times when you're just not getting messages, which people will welcome that relief. But if they're all running in the same year, that could double and triple the messages you're getting in that year.
In that year. Yeah.
You
But
know what I
would it be
mean?
hard for these candidates to compete for oxygen? I mean,
Probably.
imagine even your local city council candidate, as hard as it is now to get attention from
Right.
voters, right?
Yeah.
If there's a presidential race going on or a governor's race going on,
There's only so much airtime on the news shows. There's
right?
only
That's
so
what I
many
mean.
inches in the
Yeah.
columns.
Yeah. You might not get the time of day, right? I mean, maybe they'll hold the debate that no one watches because they're holding out for the mayor's race or the governor's race that week. You know what I mean? Like it just might take
Yeah.
attention away from what you're doing.
Yeah, I can see that. I could see that too. That's a tough one to discuss. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure where I fall on this. I like the idea of streamlining it, saving money on it, but it could also be overwhelming and not giving these races the important attention that they deserve as well. Because just not going to have time to scrutinize so much at once.
Well, and if you want to get into the politics of this, you're probably going to find more Democrats supporting it and Republicans opposing it because the higher turnout elections tend to favor Democratic candidates.
Sure.
And so, I can see if this is contested in Albany, it being fought along party lines where Republicans are saying, no, it should stay the way it is. Because when you deal with a presidential race, for example, and to a lesser extent, a governor's race, you have younger people who come out who don't normally vote, but
Mm,
they're concerned about, or they see something about what's going on with the president all the time. That's kind of like the mainstream media or sources that they're getting. They're not as engaged at the local level, and so it is oftentimes how you get, for example, our city council district. People might not know or be surprised to learn they voted for Joe Biden the first time he ran, right? Or I guess it would be the only time he was a general election candidate in 2020. The city council candidate voted for Joe Biden, but when it comes time for the council elections or the mayor's races, even right, Republicans tend to do well here. And so
mm,
people might think, well, isn't that a conservative district? Isn't that a Republican district? How come they vote Republican in the city elections, but they voted for the Democratic presidential candidate? It's because it's a whole different electorate. The people who come out to vote in presidential elections is a different voting population. They're just different people. Now, if you combine them, right, and you say the city council races and the mayor's races are happening on the same day as, let's say, the presidential race, yeah, you can get a lot of those kids, a lot of those people who don't normally vote on all these local races. They're going to come out when they vote for president. It's going to benefit that Democratic candidate because most of them are putting their vote straight down. Like we said, they're not paying attention to what's going on at the local level because they're not voting in those races anyway. But
all right.
when they're coming out, right? I mean, some of them might just leave it blank, but let's be honest, most people are just going to mark their ballot straight down party line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There could be some issues with that as well.
but
So,
if you want to see more Democrats voting in the district, I guess it's a good thing.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure which way hmm. Not sure which way I'd vote on this one here. What are you leaning on?
I don't know. To be honest with you, a little torn on that. I'm probably
Yeah.
leaning towards yes, but you know what? I kind of want more information too, because I want to know
Yeah.
how are these elections going to be consolidated, right?
Right.
Because we had questions about, well, how are you going to implement this? And so that's really
Yeah.
what I want to look into and see how much information is out there on that.
Yeah.
So
So I think, and you know what? I think people need to realize that you can say, listen, I don't have to make that decision. I need more information before I make this decision, or go and get that information, you know?
right, right. And see, like I said, I think a lot of these things tend to pass because people don't know that much about them. And
Right.
just look at them, they're like, I don't know, I guess. So look, someone is proposing this. It's not like it just appeared out of thin air, right? Someone
Right.
took the time to kind of organize around this. They think it's an important thing to do. And so they're asking us to sign off on it. And if they really don't know, they haven't really weighed the pros and the cons, they haven't thought about that deeply. It's like, I don't know, I guess. All right, you think so? Fine. You know what I mean? I think most people kind of just default to voting yes when they really don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, what is the bottom line? Do we have a bottom line tonight?
The bottom line, um, what was it? I was trying to go with the Jay-Z line. What was it? Believe half of what you hear,
None of what you see. None
none
of
of
what
what you see, even if it's spat by
I
me.
think it's the I think it's the opposite. Half of what you see, none of what you hear.
Yeah, even if it's spat by me or something like that. Yeah, we're gonna need, that's the bottom line is in this is getting more information. I think that ties both of them together, right? So whether it's news reports, videos, any sort of campaign literature, always try to verify what it is. Even if it's looking at ballots, measures on the ballot, always look for more information if you have questions about things, and make sure you do have questions about things to get clarity about what you're voting for, what you're believing, what is being fed to you. And we're going to need that now and in the future more than ever when we've got such easy ways to either create these messages or create realistic disinformation campaigns. So, and then always research what peppers you're about to put in your mouth.
I
So,
agree.
yeah.
I will refrain from having any extra hot peppers, at least tonight. Now that I had about that entire jug of milk, I'm back to liking spicy foods, but I might hold off on this pepper at least until next year or something. I don't
Yeah. Well, you won't catch me doing that. I'm good. Thank you
know.
very much.
Well, people can find us wherever podcasts are available and throughout social media. Check us out on YouTube, Nuance with Mike Scala and Jay Carter. Join the conversation. As always, we've got work to do. We've got peppers to eat. We'll catch you next time.